Sports City, chefs, Sports City, chefs. Yeah. Cabby, Taj.
Yes. It's another edition of Finger Foods. I am the villain, Barry Jordan, and I'm here to talk to you for a little bit about the New York Giants, here exclusively on Short Sports City Chefs YouTube channel. As always, I encourage you to hit the like button, comment, subscribe, so you can get more content from the chefs, the Finger Foods, Lunch Break, Poo Poo Platter, and more. We're on all social platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You can find us on all streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, etc., etc. But please leave a like if you like what you hear. New York Giants played on the Monday night slate against the Kansas City Chiefs and walked away with a 20-17 loss at the hands of the Kansas City Chiefs on a last-minute field goal with a minute and 7 seconds by Harrison Butker, and Giants fall to 2-6 on the season. While there's a lot of good that happened in this game, but there's a lot of bad to unpack. A lot of things that we will talk about. To start off first, let's start with the good. The Giants defense played a great game. I have to give them credit. This is 2 straight weeks of a really good performance for the Giants defense. It was a tall task to try and corral a desperate Kansas City Chiefs offense led by Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce. But defensive coordinator Patrick Graham came up with a great game plan against the Chiefs offense. I mean, the Giants decided to play cover 2 deep, very deep, and didn't allow anyone to get behind them to eliminate the big plays. But it was up to everybody in the secondary, corners, and linebackers to come up and make tackles and make plays. And it's one thing to devise a game plan against the Chiefs. Everybody does cover 2 against them. But it's another thing to execute on it, making tackles, making plays, not allowing those routes where Tyreek Hill can get downfield and split the middle to beat you. You got to get pressure up front. And the Giants did a good job. Listen, the secondary played their best game of the season by far. Led by Julian Love, who got the interception at the goal line to stop a really good Kansas City Chiefs drive, and really that could have been a backbreaker for the Giants. Dory Jackson was everywhere, making tackles. He had the primary assignment of covering Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill had over 10 catches, I think, for 75 yards and a touchdown, but it could have been a lot worse. He came up on Tyreek's crossing routes, made tackles, didn't allow big plays. They might have got 10 yards here and there, but didn't allow them to get the big chunk plays. So he had 12 tackles and really played a really good game. James Bradbury, also another game, shutting down the other receiver, matching up against Travis Kelce and forcing them into, Travis Kelce to have a really frustrating night. Didn't really have a great game. Logan Ryan punching the ball away from Travis Kelce to force a fumble to get the Giants the ball back and keep the score at 4 points at that point. Darnay Holmes almost, got a game clinching, if you would say, interception on Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes threw a pick and had a fumble on the game, but that was taken off the board, and we'll get into that later. Lennon Williams had a really good game, his 3rd straight game of having really a big impact on the game. Had a sack, had a forced fumble, had 6 tackles, and one of those tackles for a loss. Got a hit on Patrick Mahomes, a quarterback hit. So, very good game from him. The defensive line, Austin Johnson and Dexter Lawrence, both were able to push the pocket and mostly control the running game. They had some gashes here and there, but for the most part, the running game was kind of mitigated. So, kudos to the Giants defense, all circumstances, on the road, tough environment against a good offense, and they played very well. But the offense continued to struggle. They just struggled to find a rhythm when they needed to. When they would get drives going, it was stopped at some point by a mental mistake of some sort. Devante Booker had his best game as a Giant, got 60 rushing yards, added 65 passing yards to have 125 total yards. He had 4 yards per run attempt, and really ran the ball well and gave them a chance to really get some type of flow going. Daniel Jones, up and down game. 22 for 32, 222 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception on the day. It's hard for him to have consistency when a lot of his stars are out. People. I'm not using it as an excuse, not having Saquon or Kenny Galladay, etc. Tony left the game with a hand injury, came back, but really wasn't effective. Sterling Shepard left with the quad injury. Dante Pettis with the shoulder injury, but for the most part, he's finding open receivers. But then had that one interception where he kind of went back into a bad habit of looking down a receiver. Willie Gay, linebacker, just read his eyes all the way and stepped in front and got a pass intercepted. That really kind of started to turn the tide a little bit in that game. But for the most part, listen, there were some good things we saw. Giants cashing in on 2 red zone opportunities to get a touchdown, one to Kyle Rudolph, who finally got in the end zone, and another one to Evan Ingram, who, who knows, that might be the last time we see Evan Ingram in a Giants uniform. So it was good to see that. I think for the most part, we saw a good game plan from Jason Garrett. It's hard to execute, when you got guys going in and out of the lineup. But for the most part, I think he did what he needed to do to get the Giants moving. But again, it was their own undoing at the end of the day. Killing themselves, stopping their own drives. When they had the chances to move the football. Garrett got the ball downfield one time to John Ross on a nice play, even though he was interfered with. I think there was a third down play to where they got the protection. Daniel Jones made a nice throw to Darius Slayton, but Darius Slayton was held, so he couldn't come up with the catch. But that catch might have put the game away, so it was a good call. I thought he got into a solid rhythm, but the Giants were their own undoing. Which leads me to, just more mental mistakes by the New York Giants. I think the Giants figure out ways to kill themselves, to stop themselves. I mean, I was talking to Giants fans throughout the game, and it's like they figure out a way. Either it's a penalty, it's a turnover, it's play calling. Something that goes wrong will go wrong for the Giants. And last night, it was mental mistakes that were killing them in the form of penalties. 10 penalties on the New York Giants for 88 yards. Unacceptable. And these penalties were backbreakers. You're talking about penalties that killed drives, set them back behind the chains that then eventually they had to punt. A few penalties in particular. The Giants got a holding call inside of 4 minutes, inside of 4 minutes against the Chiefs to set them back 1st and 20. The very next play, an offsides call on defensive end Oshani Jimenez. Why is that a backbreaker? Because Darnay Holmes intercepted the ball and could have set the Giants up to get a go-ahead score to win the game. That interception is wiped off the board. Then the Giants get, on the very next play, a face mask call against Travis Kelce, which when you look at the replay, it really wasn't a face mask. But nevertheless, it was called. And then, first down. Then the Chiefs drive down the field, kick the field goal, game over, drive home safely. Another play that was really a backbreaker was Elijah Penny, who has been really good all year. I have to give him credit. But the one play where he's going to be remembered for is a mental mistake where the Giants had third down. He goes into the flat, catches the ball, gets downfield, gets about 20 yards, gets them to midfield, and would have set them up to get a score before the Chiefs got the ball back and went down on a score drive. What does he do after the play? Taunts. Gets in the face of a player, of a Chiefs player. Now, he might not have done it on purpose, but it got called. The basically that 20 yards that they got was wiped out by a 15-yard penalty, and then the Giants eventually stalled and had to punt the ball away. Just a backbreaker. Mental mistakes. Joe Judge just had probably one of his worst games as a head coach. The buck stops with him. He's the leader. He's the head coach. He's the one that preaches discipline and situational football, situational awareness, all that stuff. And he just showed so much inexperience. It was unbelievable. Horrible clock management at the end of the game and in the half. Burning his timeouts. Maybe conservative play calling, but he just had a horrific game. What was his excuse? Headphones. I don't want to hear that. Headphones were going out. That's why you're calling timeouts. Those timeouts are precious. You get the ball back with a minute left, but you have no timeouts. And then subsequently, you get a couple sacks, and basically the game's over because you had no timeouts, and you couldn't save time because you didn't have timeouts. And when you had timeouts, you didn't call before the 2-minute warning. It was just poor clock management. It's more the same from Judge. I mean, listen, I like him as a coach, but when you're preaching discipline and all this, and then you're one of the main reasons why we're not seeing any discipline, it's a killer. Giants just shot themselves in the foot consistently. Undisciplined football. And you cannot overcome that with all the injuries that they have, playing a really good team on the road. You can't shoot yourself in the foot and try to overcome it. It's just too much. But, on to week 9. The Giants 2-6 right now, falling into irrelevancy in the football league, even with an extra game. I don't know how they won't catch the Cowboys. The Cowboys are just, continue to roll. But now the Giants are on to week 9. They play the Raiders at 1:00. It's going to be a tough game. The Raiders are rested, coming off a bye week. They're playing really good football, inspired football, as they lost their head coach. But it's going to be, hopefully they can step up and play well against them like they played against the Chiefs. But I think the Raiders are playing much better football than the Chiefs are right now. Even though it's, I think it's at home in Giants Stadium. It's going to be a tall order for them. Expect a lot of Chiefs fans to be in the building. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. So, on to week 9. Again, thank you for listening to the Finger Foods for the Sports City Chefs exclusively on the YouTube channel. Again, I encourage you to hit the like button, subscribe, comment, to get more great content like this. We have shows every night. We have a show this Tuesday, the NFL Free-For-All, the Callers Cookout, and the Baseball Buffet. That should be wrapping up the MLB season on Thursday. So be on the lookout for that. Tell a friend to tell a friend. It's the Chefs again. And if you don't know, now you know.
Sports City, Chefs, Sports City, Chefs.